So, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the very first episode of the What the Book Club podcast.
Woo!
Sorry, I forgot this time.
We are the show that trawls the internet for the weirdest and the most questionable books of the modern era and reviews them and critically analyzes them for you. Now, since this is our
Is
first...
it of the modern era?
Yes. So far.
Because the classics are all amazingly well written, I'll have you know.
And the classics...
Not weird at all.
The classics don't cost 99p on the Kindle store, so... bit off limits, a bit over our budget for the time being. All right, since this is our first podcast, let's go around and introduce our fine host for this evening. So, Helen Ganny, who are you?
Oh, well, you just did it. So, spoiler alert. Hi, I'm Helen. I love reading, and tonight I've gone classic with vodka and Coke.
Nice. Very nice. Helen Hyons, who are you?
I am Helen Hines, the other Helen, and I have rum and Coke this evening from my advent calendar, my alcoholic advent calendar.
Nice.
So I don't think I've got enough rum for this book, but you know, we'll maybe crack open tomorrow's too.
Fair play. And Liz, who are you?
I'm Liz. I'm married to him, and what am I drinking? I am drinking Jack Daniel's honey whiskey.
Nice.
Not potentially the entire bottle.
Probably.
Depends how tonight goes. And I'm Paul Eubank. I'm married to Liz, and I am drinking a rather modest glass of the Yellowtail Jammy Roo red wine, which is, for a £7 wine, it is genuinely the nicest wine we've ever had.
Yeah, had a bottle of that whilst we were on holiday, and it is amazing.
It's good, isn't it? We're not currently...
that is real. Drink it in the hot tub wine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're not currently sponsored by them, but we are available. So if Yellowtail
yeah.
are listening, then...
I think we definitely need to get paid for that. I mean, drink it in the hot tub wine needs to be the new tagline, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we nailed it.
Oh, and the rat is Beowulf. So this is Beowulf.
We don't all have a rat. Just to
No.
clarify. That's not a universal thing.
No, the drinking is, but not the rat.
Okay, and today's book that we are reviewing for you all is, as it says on the screen there, The Very Ineffective Haunted House, which is a short story collection by Jeff Burk. You can see the very lovely cover there on the screen with you. If you are watching us live, give us a message in the chat. Give us a wave. Give us a hello. Be sure to subscribe so you get our next totally professional podcast and all the rest of it. So let's jump right into reviewing, shall we? So I think we are going to start by just having a kind of a look through all the different short stories, as this was a kind of a compilation of a bunch of very different, very eclectic little stories. Some rather interesting. Well, all of them rather interesting, to be honest.
Some more questionable.
Some more questionable. Yes, that's fair. Some questionable. Some more questionable. And okay, so let's start with the title story, which is The Very Ineffective Haunted House. Liz, do you want to take us through that one? Give us a synopsis.
I mean, it's kind of what it says on the tin, in that it follows a haunted house that is rather ineffective at haunting. I find it made me quite sad.
Oh.
It's like where the house thinks it's like helping the family and, doing nice things for them, but then it slams the bully's head repeatedly into the toilet and kills him. And it's like, and it mentions that the bully's like being abused at home, and you think, oh, he's going to be so happy. It's like, nope, it bullied my child, slam, dead. And you're like, how do I feel about that?
It does get very.
I mean,
dark
I know I'm easily upset by these kind of things.
Yeah.
But I think it's weird of something being good and bad at the same time. I'm sure there's like deep moral meaning behind that, but it just kind of upset me a little bit.
I think the house was quite a well-rounded character though, because he did have dreams and ambitions. So he wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
So it's full of quite a lot of his drawings.
I love the drawings.
They were good
They were
drawings.
my favourite bit.
quite got my head around how exactly he was drawing, because he's a house. But I
I
still
think
enjoy.
it's probably all kinetic.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, then the murders started happening, and that was
That was not so good.
surprisingly unexpected, given that he was a house that was haunting things.
I'd also just like to say, I think we can all agree with this for the entire. I really wish you'd proofread. Like, I really wish you'd proofread it.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, if you are ever watching this, Jeff Burk, I will proofread it for you for free.
Yes.
Like, out of the kindness of my heart, I will just proofread your book for you. It's
There were
wonderful,
times,
but needs a good proofread.
yeah, there were times when I felt personally attacked by some of the spelling. Like, I'm not criticizing the writing, it's just the spelling. And sweetie, spell check is a thing. That's all I'm
You've
saying.
got the wrong group of people reading this book to not care about the spelling as well.
That's true.
We do care a lot. Yeah.
But do you know what's really funny actually is that so I looked up Jeff Burke a little bit, and he's done a few books, but he's more well known as an editor. So he actually is an editor for other people's books.
No.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
So he's the editor for a publishing company called Deadite Press, and I had a look through their list of the books that they publish, and I'm thinking that some of them are definitely going to feature on this podcast at some point. I can read you a few of the choice
I mean,
titles.
he wrote Shatnerquake, didn't
He
he?
did write Shatnerquake, yeah, which is
So Shatnerquake is on our list.
Shatnerquake.
I made sure Shatnerquake's on our list.
Yeah. But a couple of the other books that were on Deadite Press included such wonders as Earthworm Gods 2, Fat of Sex and Violence, Clickers versus Zombies, which Clickers were the same creatures as are in this one of the stories we have here, and my personal favourite, An Occurrence in Crazy Bear Valley.
That's an excellent title.
I think that's a great.
So hang on, was one of them something too?
Earthworm Gods 2, yes.
Yeah. So does that indicate the existence of Earthworm Gods 1? Because I feel like we might need backstory.
It might be more fun to jump in without context and just sort of read it blind, but
I don't know. I feel like I need to know, like, you know, their origins, where they came from, maybe like understand what's driving them to be like, or maybe it's just me.
However, this is an opportunity for you to branch out into writing fan fiction of Earthworm 2. You could write Earthworm Gods 1, and I think that would be interesting for all of us. And then we could review your.
I think I should maybe write it without reading the book as well. I think that would probably work better.
Yeah.
What we should do is we should pick a title for these people, and then each write the story and see how well they tie up with the actual story. Especially, what was that, Bear Canyon or something you said, Paul?
An Occurrence in Crazy Bear Valley.
Okay, now I reckon Paul could very happily write An Occurrence in Crazy Bear Valley. And I would love to see how your interpretation of that and his interpretation of that match up.
I reckon that's fair. We are getting some comments through.
We should do that one time when we've got like a holiday or something. We can each write ourselves a version of that book and see how they tie up.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All about that.
We are getting a few comments through, so I'm just gonna give some shout outs. So hello to Cherith, who's been listening from the beginning. Stovesy, which I'm guessing is that'll be my mum, and Malcolm. So hey guys.
Hi, Mummy Ann.
Hi, Paul's mum. Hi, Paul's mum.
And we've got Shah listening as well. He says he'll write that. He says he'll write An Occurrence in Bear Valley for us. So perfect.
Should we move on to the second of the short stories? I feel like there's so much content here that we have.
Yeah, we're not going to get through them all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So second one was what's it called?
The window shouldn't be there.
Yes. So do you want to give us a rundown of that one, Helen H?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this one, the plot was a lot easier to kind of. It felt less like he may have been on drugs when he wrote it than the first one. I found. What I found interesting about this one is that I hadn't realised that this was a set of short stories yet. So when it started, it kicks off, and this guy is just talking a lot about gardening. And I thought that it was still the house, from the house's perspective, that was just talking about gardening, and it wasn't. It was from a very generic man, and he sees a window in his house, and he does what everyone should do in this situation. He gets someone else to verify it, particularly his girlfriend, sends her up a ladder, the house eats her, and everyone thinks that he's the murderer for a long time, basically.
Yeah.
So,
The thing that got me about that, also, I agree, I didn't realise it was a book of short stories.
No, me
And I
neither.
thought maybe that this was a story of how the man became the ghost that became the house
yeah, I thought
in
it
the
might be.
first story.
It wasn't.
I thought, oh, this, obviously I've got to think about backstories. I thought it's his backstory. This was how he became the haunted house. But no, completely different story. But he's all about this, this girl, that they have separate bedrooms, by the way.
Yeah,
Nice little detail, just dropped in.
There's nothing wrong with separate bedrooms. You get a better night's sleep.
Well,
there
I mean, just how it's like dropped in. But we get that detail. Do you know what we don't get about this woman? This well-written, fully rounded out character of a woman? Her name.
That is true.
The whole time she's just my girlfriend.
she is more well-rounded than I think any other woman in this book.
But she didn't even get a name.
But she does have 4 cats.
Most of which also got eaten.
True.
Yeah, they did get eaten.
That's too far. That is when
Yeah.
the violence spills over to the cats. That's
Kill who you want, but don't take out the animals.
Don't touch the cats, exactly.
yeah. Did you guys look at the ends? There's a section at the end of the book where it says, I think it's called Stories Behind the Stories, where it explains a bit behind some of these little short stories. And this one was apparently just taken almost word for word from a dream he had.
Oh. Okay.
Which kind of makes a lot of
Mate,
sense.
if I can make money from writing down my dreams, we are in. For those of you who don't know, I'm on antidepressants that give you really, really extremely vivid dreams that you remember in full, like the following day. And Paul used to keep a dream journal of the absolute crap that came out of my mind while I was asleep. We can make a lot of money.
Let's do it.
Do it.
I'm just quitting my job now, and
Yeah. Just making money off of your dreams.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
do it.
you do have those weird dreams pretty much every night, so this is
Yeah.
could be pretty reliable. Yeah, I think this is.
I'm going to say that Paul
Reliable source of income.
probably is
And I don't even have to be on crack.
than some people who publish books. Not naming any names.
Or anything.
The crack reference will make sense later.
Yeah.
I thought of the books, this was of the stories, this was the most kind of standard. It just felt like a fairly standard horror thing of like, guy sees someone get sucked into a window, then probably gets sucked into a window himself. The end. Like there wasn't much of a kind of a twist to it. It was just a fairly standard horror story.
Yeah, it was at this point that I thought this book isn't that bad. I mean, like it's kind of like there's some merit to it. How it's like I can see that this is an interesting concept that we've just had. I thought at this point that it was relatively normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And then
Shane.
Yeah, I guess let's move on then to book number 3, which kind of changes the tone a little bit. So book number 3 is 10 Secrets to Survival. Clickers don't want you to know. They really hate number 6, which is a whole.
This was my favourite.
It was a really good story. So this is a whole story written in the style of kind of a BuzzFeed article, like these kind of clickbaity articles. I've just got it, clickbait, and the monsters in it are called clickers.
did you already just get that?
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Oh my god.
Wow,
It's
he's
people
genius.
are debate.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's a BuzzFeed article about how to survive the apocalypse when these horrific clicker monsters come out of the sea and start eating everybody. So it's this guy who's kind of holed up in the BuzzFeed offices somewhere and watching the world end around him, but he's trying to stay upbeat, trying to stay positive, trying to keep engaging his audience, which is a real model for us all, really. and just the world's going to absolute crap around him, and he's just updating his little blog, and it's an interesting little story, and it takes a bit of a turn for the darker, as do a lot of Mr. Burke's stories.
Yeah.
What did we think of this one then?
Yeah, he's good at exploring, the human condition, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all
I'm a
been
huge
there.
fan. So go
We've
on.
all thought through what we would do in this situation.
Yeah, so I just had a thought. The thing that did throw me a little bit was I don't think it's normal for there to be that amount of drugs lying around an office. Now, so in the story, they search around, they're stuck in this office building, so they find all the work food and snacks, totally believable. But they also find a large amount of various different types of hard drugs. And I don't know whether it's just the places that I've worked, but I think that I would be able to find meth in someone's drawer at work.
I don't know. I worked for a major building society, and I'm pretty sure the place was awash with Molly.
I don't even know what Molly is.
I know.
There was a fag shack that you had to cross a car park to go and have a cigarette in, and there was many substances being exchanged there. So yeah, I think it's possibly that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of BuzzFeed. I really am. I'm possibly a little bit addicted to BuzzFeed, and it just read like a proper BuzzFeed article.
Yeah.
And I just found it really sad when he was like, "Oh, I'm getting less and less comments, less and less interaction. That's probably because you're all dying." But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it right until the very end.
Helen Hyons. It just makes me realise if the same were to happen in our place of employment, FYI, me and Helen all together, and they sorted through my drawers, they'd come up with an entire drawer filled with bras. And there's a legitimate reason for this, in that we collect them for charity and we send them off, and I am the keeper of the bras until they get sent off. But if I ever die, or they have to clean out my desk drawer, I'm going to get some very questionable
Can I
opinions.
just say, I did clean out your desk drawers.
You did?
When you went off sick, and I cleaned out your desk drawers, and I was very respectful of some of the things I found. And I do now have a big box of your bras in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, I can't send them off. They've closed down the receiving, so I have a massive box of bras in my bedroom of all sizes.
So I'm in the clear now.
But a lot of them were really big. Like some people who gave you bras, whopping boobs. Say.
Did anyone think
Anyway,
end up here?
I really like this one. And I think it's.
back to the book. Yeah.
I'm sorry to whoever told me I'm too loud. I can't work out how to turn down the sound on my computer, and I'm not very good at turning down the sound on my voice.
Can confirm.
I think it's the only time you'd ever get me to try drugs would be in the same scenario.
Okay.
Would be like, we're gonna die. What the hell?
I mean, it's
What's
quite
the
a way to go out, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
I was
Okay,
going to get
everything
to
down.
a farm shop where they've got like the really good alcohol and the really nice cheese and the really good chocolate.
Yeah.
And just go out that way, like just try like that £300 bottle of whiskey and just not have to worry.
For us at ages, it was IKEA was our kind of go-to stronghold if there was an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Properly fortified.
You'll die having got a good night's sleep.
I volunteer at a food bank, and I always figured I'd go there because it's quite like this sort of semi-underground, our warehouse, and there is a lot of food.
Good call.
Tins, but of baked beans largely, but lots.
As long as you take a tin opener with you.
And so we also give out tin openers at food bank because there are people. So yes, there is a large supply of tin openers. So all set.
Good stuff. Yeah, I did like this story though. I thought it's kind of an article, a BuzzFeed article about the end of the world is quite a funny modern take on a apocalyptic kind of story. So I thought it was quite good. I think clearly this guy spends a lot of time mucking around on the internet,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he definitely knows his BuzzFeed. He definitely knows how to.
I mean, who
imitate that
doesn't?
voice well. Yeah, that's true.
It's COVID. Who doesn't spend time looking about on the internet?
That's fair. That is fair.
I also think this is our first named woman of the book.
The one that
Yes,
gets
I
eaten.
think it is.
Granted, she is eaten by the but for a while there, she existed.
It's progress.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
shout out to you, Scarlett. I'm sorry that you were eaten by.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Juniper.
Oh, and Juniper, who also died.
Yes.
But it's the end of the world. Do what you got to do.
I kind of liked how the style of writing changed the more drugs he took. So when Juniper, so he kills Juniper, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, the clicker kills Juniper. He kills Scarlet.
Yes.
He kills Scarlet. Sorry, yeah. So when he kills Scarlet, he's just like rambling, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I killed Scarlet." Well, you would, wouldn't you? And just like the way the writing, the character degenerates and the writing degenerates, the more drugs he takes, the more paranoid he gets. I actually, of all the ones, he's kind of like the one that goes on an arc.
Yeah.
He does have an arc.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he has an arc, and I like that.
That's good. That's the bit I've got open on my phone at the minute. The
Oh.
ramble. Also, I killed Scarlet. I didn't want to do it, but it was my only responsible option. See, sometimes
I'll tell you what's really mature though, and I wish a lot more people did. When he goes, "Oh, it's a load of crap. There's not these, crazy fish people controlling all the clickers. It's a load of rubbish. It's a load of rubbish. You're all fantasizing. This isn't the truth." And then he's like, "Oh, I've just seen one. So yeah, you were right."
Yeah, that's a great
I feel
little
like
bit.
Rose.
admitting the fact that he was wrong is important.
Indeed.
That's
All right.
development right there.
Should we move on to story number 4?
Yes.
Just before I do, let me just say that we have reached an all-time high in our viewership, in that we are now being listened to by 5 people.
Woo!
There are officially more people listening than there are on the show.
How many of
that's
those are
more
you
than
related
half of them
to?
we're not related to.
Bertie
I
just
think-
told me, so we've got 5 people right here. Sorry, Paul.
There you go. Oh, we've got another follower. Thank you to Stovesy for just following us. Thank you, Mummy. All right, moving on. Next one is, I know this is a lot of people's favorite. I think this is called "How I Got a My Little Pony Tattoo." Liz, do you want to take us through this one?
Okay, I love this one with a passion. This is my favourite.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
It's so in the back blurb, it tells you that this is it's a story. Basically, it's adapted from having bed bugs, where they come and they bite you in the night and all that sort of thing. Only instead of bed bugs, it's tiny little tattoo artists who come and tattoo you in the night. And this guy unfortunately has his apartment building has an infestation of Incas, who unfortunately have a bit of a thing for bad children's television. And so he starts developing like Power Ranger, a badly drawn Power Ranger tattoo, Barney, like a big purple lump that's supposed to be Barney, My Little Pony, and it's his quest to rid himself of these Incas in his apartment block, and it's absolutely fantastic.
It is a very good. It's a great concept,
Really good.
isn't it?
I think, yeah, my favourite thing is where they talk about they had an outbreak of bloggers as well that follow you around and document your life, and then they had a nasty infestation of hippies.
Yeah.
The place just smelled of patchouli all the time, and I just thought it was really, really well rounded, and the result, like how they got rid of the Incas, how they dealt with them, I thought was super creative as well. Like they didn't kill them, there was talk of poison and all of that, and having the place fumigated. But they went to a pet shop, and they had like little.
Oh, don't! That's Paul's quote.
Oh yeah. Oh right.
You can
Okay.
spoil it. You can spoil it.
I'll
I'll read the quote later, but you can give the ending. It's fine.
Yeah. So they had like little cages full of little businessmen and other things that you could just go and buy. And they were in the feeder area where, like, you get your frozen mice and your cockroaches to feed to your lizards. And you could just feed a little businessman to your lizard. And I
So
just,
good.
I thought it was really creative and I loved it.
And it just comes out of nowhere as well. Like there's absolutely nothing to suggest that this is going to happen, and then suddenly a tank's full of businessmen.
Yeah.
I also really liked the part where he had the one night stand where he gave her Incas and she woke up with a tattoo on her ass.
Yeah.
Some weird STD that you can cap. Like, really good. And he didn't tell her. I mean, this guy isn't a stand-up gent. I mean, he's that whole section when they discussed that liaison was, I'd say, lacking in some respects. But then he just walks off and he doesn't even tell her about the tattoo. I like that.
Yeah.
Not on at all.
Not on. No, but definitely my favourite book out the lot.
Yeah, but also the bit where it felt like we'd crossed over into weird. You know? Like I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the weird at this point. I was finding it very funny, but before this, it kind of,
just horror. It's
Yeah.
horror until that point,
and
and then
we
it goes stops being horror. It just stops being weird.
yeah.
But I preferred that. The clickers into the Incas, I just thought was a really good segue for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one, I didn't really like that much.
So the next one was the GG effect, which
Yeah.
Oh
is,
yeah.
I can
Yeah.
summarize this one. This is kind of a time travel-y type story. So it's about this genius scientist who comes up with this formula called the GG formula, which is some contrived acronym. I can't remember what it is, like General Guidance.
General
Formula,
guidance, I think, yeah.
something like that. I thought it was going to be about like video games because at the end of a game you'd say GG, meaning good game. So I thought it was going to be about that, but it completely wasn't. Anyway, so he creates this formula that allows him to predict all kinds of stuff, and he ends up making the world such a better place by creating prosperity, solving all energy problems, and all that kind of thing. He then realizes that the formula has run out, which he thinks predicts that the world is going to end. And somehow, I forget how. Oh no, he builds a time machine basically that allows him to step outside of time and try a few different ways to change the past in order to stop the end of the world. Everything he does fails except for ruining his own life. And so he goes back in time and kind of messes with his own past, makes his father into a bit more of a douche, gives himself a less stable upbringing. And for some reason, this causes him to not invent the GG formula, which therefore saves the world. And so it's a story about how wrecking his own life saved the world.
So I feel like you missed a key part out though, because it was in him just realizing that the formula came to the end, that he invented this time machine that actually broke everything. So the time machine created a black hole that caused the apocalypse, and it was
Wasn't it that caused the apocalypse?
that he'd ruined the world, that he decided he had to ruin his own life.
Now, see, I always think you've got to be really careful with time travel, and unfortunately, as an autistic person, that finds it very hard not to pick holes in everything. I found it really hard because if he'd gone back and changed his father's life, then the chances that he would not have been born.
Yeah.
Because if you change the most infinitesimal thing before you're born, that sperm that makes you ain't getting there. He would not have been born.
So
And I'm sorry, but that causes me annoyance.
But he didn't go back to before he was born. The early
He
two
does.
went back
He
to
messes with his
child.
dad's life.
But didn't he mess with his dad's life? But he was already born. Like there was the first picture was him.
No, he goes back further than that to when his dad's a kid.
yeah.
So
So
he
he
forgot about that.
end up with a different name as well. So he almost does cover your point list. I mean, I think there is many holes in the story. For one, that he's like, I guess it's almost a analysis of the class system, that he tries to ruin his own life and it doesn't quite work because his upbringing is too stable, so he ruins his dad's life, and then he turns into a punk rocker, which is bordering deep. But what I found hard to tolerate it was that this guy was so incredible that no matter what he did with his life, it was always amazing, and he ruined the world. Until his, father relationships broke down, and he ended up instead addicted to drugs and in a punk band.
Drugs and punk are definitely recurring themes throughout these stories.
Definitely are.
I think again, this is Jeff Burk writing what he knows, but
Yeah, and the same brand of beer comes up.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, PBR comes up. But did his brother, in the messed up world that he created, where he messed up his own life, did his brother exist?
Yeah, he did, but he was the bass guitarist, I think.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Who'd be a bassist, right?
I think it was a low point in the book after the highs of how I got the Little Pony tattoo.
Absolutely. But I mean, I'm old enough to remember. Have you guys ever heard of Arthur C. Clarke's Tales of the Unexpected, whatever they are?
Yeah.
So it's very, very much Tales of the Unexpected. Like this kind of, going back in time, messing with your own life, dystopian future to make things better for mankind. It's very that kind of thing. So it felt very familiar to me.
Effect, isn't it? That Aston Kutcher film, Butterfly Effect.
I know the film. I don't know who did it, but yeah.
I know it exists, but yeah.
That made me sad as well.
Okay.
It's definitely been done though, hasn't it? It definitely.
I think so. Yeah.
Wasn't the most original.
Yeah.
I did quite like the idea that the way to end the world was to be really well adjusted and have a really nice life, and then the way to save the world was to be a druggie in a punk band. That was quite an interesting kind of a twist, but it didn't save the story in my opinion.
No.
Anything else on this one, or shall we move on?
Let's move on.
Move on.
So the next one was a nice short little story. This was The Dog Who Stared.
Oh, I loved this.
Do you want to take us through it, Helen Gani?
Okay, so it's very weird. It's just this nice suburban couple who have a dog who they notice one day he hasn't come in for his dinner and he's in the backyard staring up at the sky. And the next morning they come down and he's not at his dinner again. And the dog is still in the backyard. And then, he says to one of his mates, have a look at this dog. And this mate brings another couple of mates to have a look at the dog, who's not moving, just staring at the sky. More and more people come. And then instead of, doing anything responsible to help the dog, they go on a holiday.
Yeah, get the RSPCA in.
At this point, by the time they've gone on holiday, they've had enough, because there's hundreds of people. There's even a hot dog stand in the back garden. And they're all staring up to see what the dog sees. And then they come back from their holiday, and this entire festival has grown up around it. There's a Ferris wheel. People are wearing T-shirts that say, "I saw what the dog saw." And so this guy's like, right, okay, I've had enough. Finally goes down to where his dog is. Looks up at the sky and then gets blown apart by a meteor. The dog is proper happy because he thinks it's a ball that somebody's thrown for him. He goes hopping and skipping after it. His master's just got blown to bloody smithereens. But the meteor is there and it's a ball for Brutus to play with. And I just thought it was a cute little story. I might tell my granddaughter it. I might leave out some of the bloodier details. But yeah,
you could if you missed out the owner getting blown apart by an asteroid. It would make quite a nice illustrated children's book.
I think it's cute because it's like a doggy waiting for his ball, and I think that's cute.
Yeah, with a different ending, you could maybe see it being a little kid's book or something.
Kids really love brutal stuff. I think
that's true, actually. Yeah.
Animals are farthing wood, man.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, your average 7-year-old would love a neglectful owner being blown apart by a meteor.
Yeah.
I mean, they would see that as true justice.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know that I'd say they're entirely wrong. They didn't even get a dog there.
No.
Yeah. It felt like there were a lot of things they could have done differently, the dog owner in this one. How about picking up the dog? And taking it inside?
Yeah.
Might have been worth a try.
The flipping Westie. Pick it up, take it inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Show it something shiny. Those things are easily distracted.
Yep.
Felt like there was definitely a lot of other things they could have tried.
He didn't
Yeah.
eat for long enough that he probably would have died.
Yeah, water at least.
Yeah.
But that's the other weird thing. Like the dog didn't eat or drink for days and days and days, and was absolutely fine.
Yeah, went bouncing off at the end. But I did love the details about the selling T-shirts and the hot dog stand and the Ferris wheel. They were all really good. I enjoyed this one. This is, I think, so in terms of my experience, we had the low point of the GG effect, and then started picking up again here.
Yeah, I remember Liz read
I
this one. No, go on.
I think I read this entire one while I was on the toilet.
Yeah. I just heard you laughing, and then you said you'll love the next one. Read the next one. It's very you. And yeah, it gave me a little chuckle.
Yeah.
Certainly did. So moving right along then. So following The Dog Who Stared was another interesting book. This one called one of those ones where the title says it all. This is one is called The Most Accomplished Crackhead in the World.
Oh yeah.
Who wants to?
This one made me sad.
Okay. Who wants to give us a rundown of this one then?
I'll do it just because I don't want to go into what happens in the next one. So I'm hoping by volunteering.
I will. Can I shotgun the next one?
Absolutely.
you go ahead.
Absolutely.
Is that a good idea?
So this one, The Most Accomplished Crackhead in the World, is about a very square family, and the guy, he's just a bit bored. You know, he's kind of trapped in this suburban life. He's doing very well for himself, and he's got his kids that are doing very well. Everyone's very happy, and he just thinks, what if I took crack? And as it turns out, crack gives him an awful lot of energy. So he channels this into, well, first he starts by writing a very successful porno that he self-publishes on Amazon.
Have you got the name there of the book? Because it's quite a name.
It's such a great name.
Right, let's just scroll it through. Yeah. Erotic Adventures of Miss Daisy and her super pussy, fluffy whiskers. Yeah, so a lot of people buy that book, and then he promptly starts reading politics, social ethics books, math. He studies a lot, and he becomes like a really, really important figure in politics. He fixes world hunger, all the wars. He brings peace to the Middle East. He writes a lot more porn. Becomes very addicted to crack, and then he decides, like, this isn't how it should be. You know, I didn't see my life ending up like this. So he takes the very brave and courageous decision. What just broke in Liverpool?
That was just a very big bag of computer stuff that I moved out of the way so that I could have space to do the podcast.
Oh dear.
It's okay. We can edit all that out in post-production. Don't worry.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
So as I was saying, he decides to go clean, and his wife, his wife kind of doesn't have a starring role, as is often the way with Jeff Burk's work. One could suggest.
Yeah.
She does actually have an opinion on this, but they haven't had a conversation. So he hasn't actually told her about the crack, but she's not an idiot. So she knows, in fact, that he's spending a lot of time getting high, and she is devastated about his decision to get clean because, you know, he was this boring middle-class suburban man, and now he's a genius. He writes a very large amount of very popular porn. He fixes world issues. So she gets in a TV crew to sort of have an intervention with him where she says, I don't like you when you're sober. Please, could you go back to the drugs? And she gives him some more crack. And he dies of an overdose. Yeah.
That's the bit that makes me sad, where his wife is more interested in money and having a good quality of life than she is about the well-being of her husband. And that upset me. I nearly finished, I only just skipped it because it really upset me.
Aww.
I'm easily upset.
You're so in the wrong podcast, because that's definitely not the worst thing that's going to happen in one of the books we read.
Not even the worst thing happened in those 10 pages for big reader. Yeah, I thought this one was interesting. I mean, I won't say that it was the high point of the book. It certainly wasn't the low point. But it kind of continued the theme of subverting expectations and drug use. So
yeah,
Like that film, is it Limitless?
Yes.
With Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except with more acne and like bleeding fingernails.
Yeah. I just thought it was a bit predictable.
Mhm.
Like, he does all this crack. He's a very, very clever guy anyway. They get rich because of all the porn that he writes, and his wife and kids form like a backwards intervention to make him go back on crack so that they can have all the nice things. It just felt really, really super predictable. But there was a great line in it where he emails the president.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "Hey, dude, here's a recipe for French dip. Oh, and a formula has to have to save the world." It's just like,
I like that bit.
That was good. Yeah.
I like that bit. But I just felt it was a bit predictable for me.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't claim to be an expert on how crack cocaine works. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
Probably not.
Don't
It does
think
give you all the energy.
Let's try
but-
some and find out.
Live on stream.
Oh, I'm not that dedicated to my art. You're all right.
No,
Okay.
I think I'm busy that evening, but you guys go ahead.
Mm.
We'll watch it later.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one, or should we move right along?
Oh, can we move really quickly past the next one?
All right.
Is
so,
it the next one? Or is that the toaster one?
I
No,
think the next one is the one that we all think it is.
It is.
So just before we get there, if anyone still listening to our wonderful podcast, thank you for sticking with us thus far. Of the books we've suggested thus far, which sounds the best to you? Let us know in the comments, and we can read out your messages live. Now, Liz, the next book that we would like you to talk about is called "I've Seen Enough Hentai to Know Where This Is Going." Now, before you dive in,
Okay.
does someone want to explain what hentai is?
No, I'm. If you don't know what hentai is, just don't Google it and don't read this particular story. It's just what I'm going with. Just don't. You don't need to know. None of us needed to know.
No.
Helen Ganny has some interesting questions that she might be raising later. It involves, and I think what I can say safely from this story is that I now know way too much about the porn industry for what I needed to know. I now know what a fluffer is.
Oh, I knew
And
that.
if you don't know what a fluffer is, just don't Google it. And just the one thing you may want to know is hentai involves tentacles instead of other things. And the only good thing that came of this is when I tried to explain it to my mum, and she just went, "Cat don't like tentacles."
I think that is what
That's what my mum-
everyone should have said when anyone mentioned anything to do with this.
Yeah.
She's went,
World.
"Wouldn't be getting anywhere near me."
I mean, there were bits of it that I thought were nice. Like, there was a moment of connection between two people that was emotional and spiritual. Okay,
Yeah.
two characters. Yeah, not people. One of them was definitely not a people. Between two characters that was kind of sweet, and I kind of wanted them to end up together because I thought there's a whole great story there, but then they didn't.
I think what we can say is it's just don't read it unless you already know what those two terms mean. Mummy Ann, you do not read this, and you do not Google this.
Can I ask
Promise
my
me, Mummy
question?
Ann.
Sorry.
Go on then, ask your
Okay.
question.
So, in the WhatsApp chat, it got mentioned, and I was like, "What is hentai?" And Paul described what it was, and I wanted to know. So, you know, in Friends, when Monica walks in on Chandler, and he quickly changes the channel, and it's a shark program,
Yeah.
and he's been having a bit of grown-up happy time by himself. So she thinks that it's the sharks that do it for him.
Yeah.
Is it like that, but with octopuses?
Cthulhu.
Or is it just like tentacles, or is it the whole squid?
I
Think Davy Jones out of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, with the face. Like an ood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ood. That has to exist somewhere, but
Oh
So
no.
are the tentacles like elsewhere?
I think
Probably.
all tentacle-based needs are catered to in the world of hentai. I think, wherever you want the tentacles, there'll be someone somewhere who has written something or drawn something or acted
I
something.
don't want. No.
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 Can I just say at this
Oh God,
point,
no.
I just want to say that
No.
we really tried to make the first episode of our podcast fairly wholesome, fairly free of anything.
We
We
did.
tried so hard.
And we got about halfway through our first book before, bam, hentai tentacles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tried.
We did.
Cool.
We can at least forewarn people.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap this one up, I just want to read what Jeff Burk himself wrote about this story in his Stories Behind the Stories thing, because it's...
This made me feel worse about the whole thing, actually. But anyway, yes, continue, Paul.
This just confused me. So he said, I'll just read the whole thing. I spent a lot of time online doing things like looking at memes and reading Reddit. I've also spent a lot of the past 2 years battling depression issues. While I love talking about the first, the second isn't really something I like to address to others. This story is my attempt to combine both concepts. It's about how even when you think you've got everything you want, it's just not enough to fix those dark, negative feelings inside. And then you read the story, and it's about that.
So I think what he meant by that, because it did confuse me too, is when the unnamed tentacled creature, I tried to read it.
I think it has a name.
When he first meets one of the characters, he is experiencing some depressive effects and is unable to perform to the way he would like in terms of his daily life, and it's through the moment of spiritual connection that Helen was talking about, the care of the fluffer, that he then is raised out of his depressive episode and into really weird porn.
So it's kind of an uplifting story then, you reckon?
Well, I mean, I think it is a love story, but I don't think that is the answer to depression. I'm just going to say. So firstly, I think it's problematic to rely on other people to, fully pull you out of that kind of place. I think, it has to come from your own inner strength. You have to want to things to get better. And also, I don't think the way to express emotional and spiritual connection should involve that many tentacles or orifices.
Any tentacles, to be honest.
I feel like we're getting a bit too descriptive again.
Trying to stay as far off as possible, but it's hard to talk about the content of this particular story without...
Let's just not talk about the content of this particular story.
Okay.
Fair enough. It's your husband who kept us on it. Why don't we move on to the satanic little toaster?
Yes, the satanic little toaster. Helen, Ganny, do you want to take us through this guy?
Satanic little toaster. Okay. It's about a man who's really obsessed with toasters. I really enjoyed some of the details in this about the toaster forum and some of the people who collect toasters and and it turns out that this toaster is the devil. It also foretells the future. And
can I quickly interject? My friend, who will remain nameless, is going to kill me. Has just sent me a WhatsApp stating, "Mate, hentai doesn't always involve tentacles."
Okay, you've got to have watched a lot of this stuff to know that.
Well,
they also said, "Do not read that on the stream."
Do not what?
They said, "Do not read that out on the stream," followed by, "I am going to kill you."
She said no names were named. Okay, so
no names named.
I don't
know. No names named. 5 people watching at the moment. Love you.
Yeah, so apparently he based it on the children's animated movie, The Brave Little Toaster, which he used to watch on repeat. But yeah, he doesn't have a lot to say about this. Just it must have left some impression on me because I think toasters are pretty cool.
Fair.
I mean, this didn't hold a lot of interest, to be honest. I skim read it. It was a bit like,
Oh, really? I enjoyed it. See,
dude,
this was a maybe it was just after the last one, and it was like a uptick.
Mhm.
But no, I liked the
toasters.
whole thing. I thought his obsession with toasters was weirdly endearing. And I enjoyed the fact that when he toasted bread, different things came out on it. And I really enjoyed that how one of the like omens this was all going wrong was large amounts of rusts on the rest of his toaster collection.
That didn't do it for me.
This one rated highly for me, I think.
I've eaten 4 pieces of toast today.
Did any,
Great.
did any of them have omens on them?
Oh, I think we should also say that he is eventually bludgeoned to death by his toaster.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
that's,
this is
that's,
true.
that's
That
very
feels
much
like
a
a
thing
key
that happens.
point.
Actually, that's the question I have. He was bludgeoned to death by the toaster, but it wasn't just him. There was like a whole block of houses
Yes.
where some meth heads like cut off the power to break into people's houses, killed like 12 people that night. So it kind of raised a question in my head. Actually, was this toaster possessed? Because surely it would just be him that got killed if it was the toaster. But it was these people and they killed a bunch of other people. So actually, was the toaster just, maybe wired a little bit wrongly?
Yeah.
And it's all just a massive coincidence.
That's an interesting question.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely took it to be that the toaster's sphere of influence was just like quite high.
Okay.
But
I don't think of toasters as having a fear of him.
No.
not normally, but
No.
I guess yeah, it's interesting. I do quite like horror though when it's a little bit ambiguous. Like, is it all in the person's head, or is there actually something supernatural going on? And I think I definitely read it that the toaster killed him, and then there just happened to be a bunch of meth heads there as well. But
well, there's always a bunch of methods in this
well, yeah,
general.
that's true.
It's just the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of this one, Liz?
I don't know.
Hmm?
Like, I think I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, I think I've not quite formulated an opinion on it yet.
Still pondering.
Yeah, I think I agree on was the toaster levitating and just killed him, or was the toaster like handled by a meth head? Like, I don't really know. It does make me a bit more concerned about my slight collecting, hoarding tendencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is a lesson to be learnt.
There is definitely a moral in this, and I think at the end we're going to try and summarize what themes and what we've learned from reading this this collection of wonderful stories. But moving on then to I've lost the story. So after Satanic Little Toaster was an interesting little story called Hipster Hunter.
No, I didn't like this one.
I was very, very, very confused, but I was amused. This was the point where I genuinely hiccuped laughing, which has never happened to me before. But I didn't know what was going on, but I was definitely entertained.
Yeah.
Did you understand it, Paul? Can you explain it to me?
I can.
Paul laughed a lot at this. I heard Paul laughing at this.
I think this one tickled me the most because it was just so confusing. So the basic plot is quite straightforward. There's a guy who looks a bit like the Fonz, who dresses in like 1950s attire, and he has a shotgun, and he wanders around killing hipsters. That's it. That's pretty much the entire plot. But it's the kind of the way it's told that makes it very strange. It's kind of so it's written as a screenplay. So it'll say shot of grass, zoom out to see hipster running, cut to smoking shotgun barrel or whatever, and so it's written as a screenplay, and it never really explains why. And sort of as the story goes on, it gets weirder and weirder. So at one point, one of the hipsters has a bag over his head, and he's described as Baghead Hipster. So Baghead Hipster and Jenny walk off screen, and that's never explained. And then
My favourite bit was when there was randomly the rabbit that just says, "Do the locomotion."
yeah, that made me laugh an awful lot.
It just felt like a fever dream. Like,
So good.
yeah. It was too far for me. I was just like, okay, I like weird stuff, but it just felt like it was trying so hard to be weird. I tell you what it reminded me of. The Mighty Boosh.
Yeah,
Never watched.
I've never watched. It's what I imagine the Mighty Boosh to be, with less shotguns.
less murder.
Crazy stuff for the sake of it.
Yeah. So this is another one where reading the behind the story thing actually makes it make a lot more sense, which I actually think detracts from the experience quite a bit. Reading it and having no idea what's going on is kind of the ideal state to read it in. But this story was written for a compilation of short stories inspired by David Lynch, by the films of David Lynch.
Right.
Who is this massive surrealist? Liz, remember Eraserhead?
Yeah, I didn't get on with Eraserhead.
No, me neither. Flipping weird.
Just
film.
weird.
But it has the same kind of trippy, nightmare-y kind of what the heck is going on kind of vibe. And apparently it has references to a lot of David Lynch's films in it, which I will admit I did not spot.
No, I didn't.
But yeah, this one made me laugh an awful lot, just with the sheer nonsensicalness of it.
I sent screenshots to this to a lot of people, and it was mainly the one with the bit with the rabbit, because it continues on from there. I've just opened it again, and then the Baghead Hipster says, "You stay alive, baby. Do it for Van Gogh." It might be the best pickup line ever. It's right before they are intimate, but I just love it so much. Like, what's going on? And it's right after the rabbit, and then right before they start drinking vomit. It's all really, really.
That was really
I forgot about
grim.
that. That's very David Lynch, though, isn't it?
I think so. From my limited experience, yeah.
This was the point where I was like, I am really glad I spent £1 on this, because nothing would have made me laugh that much for that little money. Because there was point, a few stories back where I was regretting everything I'd ever done, that had led me to this point where I was reading the tentacle story. But then we got to here, and I was like, no, definitely worth 99 pence, 100%. Would pay it again for the same experience.
Good. Well, that's what we're aiming for. Anything else on this one? Or should we move on to the final story? No? Okay. We've had a couple of ups and downs in the chat, so let me know if you're still here. I think my mum has left, so I think we should go back to the tentacle story now. I think we should go right back.
Your mum left?
I just got a message saying got to go, but well done, it's great. But if you're still there, mum, let me know, or if whoever's in the chat, let me know. Let us know what you think of this story, these collections of stories.
I would like to make a full apology to the person that I did read the WhatsApp of as well, because I'm now really worried that I've upset them.
Well,
but that's mental illness, and that stays off of the podcast.
So the final, I was going to say final story. This isn't actually a story. So the final item for our consideration is called Jinx Poem. Now this is another one where there's absolutely no context, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So it's a fairly short little poem. I read it and I was like, what on earth is this?
So I do think that we should end this, when we end it, by reading the poem, because this is the final chapter of the story. And when we got to the final line, I had this moment where I was like, that is genius. The way that you've left that, it's flawless. It really rounds off the whole experience.
It's not the final thing, though. There's the dinosaurs one.
Yeah, true.
I'm choosing to discount that as not really part of the collection of works, as a weird side note that he just got. He just had to write about the dinosaur, because it isn't fiction.
No.
So I think at the end we should read the entire, because it's not very long. We should read the Jinx poem. Maybe we could take a line each or something, and then end it like that. I think it would be good.
I'm game.
You have to find it, so give me 1 second.
Okay. So you gave me some context about this,
Yes.
and it wasn't until you gave me the context that I realised it was about Pokemon. Now I know nothing about Pokemon. I don't play Pokemon Go. I've not watched the video, the cartoons. I don't know what these things are. I know that Pikachu is like a little yellow thing,
That's right.
Yeah, I know Pikachu. That's it.
and he's the punchline to a joke about getting him on the bus.
No, Pokemon. How do you get someone on a bus? You Pokemon.
How do you get Pikachu on a bus? Here, you Pokemon. That's literally all I know. So even with the context, I'm like, what the hell is that?
That is Jinx. That is the subject of this poem. So if
Oh lordy, that does make more sense now.
It does make more sense now. I prefer it without the context, though, as a piece of literature.
yeah, I think.
Stretching the word.
So
Yeah.
obviously I grew up on Pokemon. Pokemon is and remains my entire life. But I never had a problem with Jinx as a kid. I didn't really get it, but I've since learned that it was an incredibly controversial Pokemon because it basically looks like a fat woman with a black face. And it's just, looking back, it is a terribly designed Pokemon. Like, the idea of sending this thing out to fight Pikachu is just really wrong. And yeah, it's just not a great thing. And
Oh
so
yeah, it does make more sense of the poem now.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The poem basically, we will read it in a second, but the poem is basically just like, what is going on with Jinx? The poem, again, reading the stories behind the stories, was going to be part of a compilation of, they were going to write a poem about each of the 150 original Pokemon, but it just never
I am up
materialized.
for that.
That would be fun. You just got to hope you don't get one of the really boring ones like Poliwhirl. Like, what do you write about Poliwhirl or Oddish? You know.
Certain words I don't understand now.
Yeah. I'm
If
sure,
we're reviewing a book about poems about Pokemon, I'm probably not going to participate in that.
We
Yeah.
could totally make that happen.
you could, not me.
I'm up for it.
Just leave it to our friend Chair. Like, she'd probably do them all herself.
Trelawney87 says, "Don't be hating on Poliwhirl." Apologies. I'm sure he's got some fans. There. So. Okay. Shall we read this thing then?
Okay.
Line by line.
Let's do it.
All right, I'll start. Well, should we go? Actually, I don't know what order you guys are in on your screen, so let's go.
Hello, Bertie. I have
got
cats.
We got cat. So let's go. Paul, Helen Ganny, Helen Himes, Liz, line by line.
Okay.
Okay. So this is Jinx poem by Jeff Burk. Totally did not just have to be like, crap, what's the name of the author? Right. When I first saw you.
I thought you
Couldn't.
Be real.
But you are.
a chick with blowjob lips.
And wearing blackface.
That's a little weird.
The voodoo dolls don't.
Help the matter.
At the very least, you're an obese drag queen.
Who sings opera?
If that's what is true.
Good for you.
Lost to a time from a bygone era.
Era, yes. Do you think he means era?
I think it means era.
An earlier generation.
Of minstrel shows and ganguro. I don't know what that is.
Seriously, you have tits.
Why must you make me?
So uncomfortable.
Brilliant. It's the perfect way to end this book.
Why must you make me so uncomfortable?
Why must you make me so uncomfortable?
What more can be said?
I mean, I personally do like the post.
Oh, Liz is frozen.
Rose, she likes the what? You like the what? I need to know.
A bit about the dinosaurs that happens next.
Yeah. So the very final thing in this compilation isn't a story. It's just a completely random aside where he talks about some dinosaur trading cards that he really likes. Gives some history about them. There was this set of cards.
Post article?
Epilogue?
I guess, where he just talks about these dinosaur trading cards, which apparently were part of the same set as Mars Attacks, the Tim Burton film, if anyone's seen that. And it's just him talking about these cards and saying they're really cool, and that's it. It's just him talking about some cards he likes, and fair play to him, getting the word out about something is like using his platform for something he thinks is good. So fair play to him on that, I guess. Does anyone else have anything else to say on that one? Oh no, Liz has dropped. We are experiencing technical.
Oh, this is bad.
Technical errors.
Yeah. Oh, she's back.
Oh.
No, I got nothing to say about that.
No.
The order of you guys has now switched, so Helen Hines, can you just be Liz for the remainder of the stream?
No worries.
Liz,
I can be Liz.
Liz, you're Helen Hines. Yep. Hello.
Hello?
You're back. Yeah, we were just talking about the dinosaur one. So, anything you want to raise on that one?
I just want, if Jeff Burk ever watches this, will you send us dinosaur playing cards? Please.
Players.
That's all.
They do sound kind of cool, but yeah, it's. I have nothing else to say on this one. All right. We had a few other things planned, but we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. Shall we kind of bring things to a close here by talking about one of the things we wanted to mention was what we've learned from this book, what life lessons, what we think the most important themes were, how this has changed our life and or day. So, Liz, do you want to start us off on that?
I think for me, I was pretty sure this was a safe first read. And having discovered that it was not, I think it has definitely made me rethink the future reads of the book club, in that this is what I thought was in my spreadsheet of, does this contain questionable sexy bits? This was a probably not. Yeah, it's made me rethink potentially some of our other reads. But also I really enjoyed it. I really want to fit Incas from the tattoo one into our Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that was by far my favourite. And I think it was nice. It was a nice, easy, quick read. Lots of sort of short.
I would agree with that.
Short stories.
Yeah, so this will probably come up as we continue doing our episodes. I am a notoriously slow reader. I'm impressed I managed to finish this one. It's very likely I won't finish the books if we do these regularly. But this one I had no trouble with, so I'm at least happy about that. Helen Ganny, what do you think are the key takeaways from The Very Haunted House?
So this was definitely not the kind of thing I would normally have read at all.
Yeah.
I think one thing I've learned is I really like pictures in my stories now, because The Very Ineffective Haunted House had pictures, and I was disappointed that the rest didn't. Although maybe some of the stories later on, I'm glad that there were no pictures. I would really like to have read a whole book about the house. Like, I felt that there was a lot more there, and the Incas, I would like. Has anybody read the Terry Pratchett books with We Free Men?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Wouldn't you love a whole series of books about the Incas and their universe?
Yes.
The Incas universe, I think, would just be so great.
With the little businessmen and the little sailors.
The businessmen and the sailors and the hippies and the bloggers and all of that. I would totally love a whole series of books about the Incas universe, a bit like the We Free Men. But the thing it's taught me is to maybe not be so closed-minded about self-published stuff on Kindle.
Hmm.
There you go. That's what it is. I also think maybe we need to have a little rethink about what we read, and maybe we're careful about what we talk about. But maybe as we go through, we will relax and we will read some other stuff.
Maybe.
Less crack, less tentacles. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my kind of lesson from this, firstly, from reading this, one of my key takeaways was that taking drugs is mint and solves all your problems. So like
Yes,
crack is great, makes you
crack is great.
incredibly
Mm.
productive. Meth is awesome, according to the guy who wrote the BuzzFeed article.
Yes.
There's weed everywhere. There's just like drugs are great, was the moral from this, as far as I was
Yeah.
concerned. But I also did like the fact that there's just no unifying theme between these stories. It's just everything this guy could think of thrown onto a page and just kind of write it all up, don't proofread it, hit publish. And yet it's brought a bunch of people around the world a few hours of laughs. And I think there's something to be said for that. Just the kind of throwing whatever you want out there onto the internet and bringing some laughs to people around the world from it. And I think that's a good thing. So that would be, I guess, my takeaway from that. Ellen Hands, what about you?
See, my takeaway was almost the exact opposite of yours.
Okay.
Firstly, I would say that there is some unifying features, and that pretty much all of it's set in Portland.
Yep.
And he does make a point of mentioning that almost every story. So I think we've got to give him some credit. It is because that's the place he lives. So he's just gone with it. But I think that
I think Portland's like the hipster capital of America.
bring a theme to all of it.
Okay.
But my takeaway from reading it and the sort of highs, the lows, was that I never want to do drugs. It was my general takeaway. I think, having a glimpse into the mind of someone who can go from there are small men in your bed tattooing My Little Pony onto your arm to your toaster is going to kill you to the story that we won't talk about in any more detail. It kind of got me to the place where I thought sobriety, pretty good. Yeah. So quite different from you, but I understand your perspective. I guess we're looking at different angles.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. Just Jeff Burk does not paint a great picture of the drugs lifestyle, really, does he? If this is his mind, I guess.
I did enjoy reading in one of his final notes about it when he was talking about the crackhead story. I'm going to see if I can find the actual quote because it was really good. Where he was talking about how he'd never done hard drugs. And how this was inspired by one of his friends who said that there's a cat just behind me. Just gonna find it. So this is one of my highlight from the end notes for me. One thing he'd tell me about that really fascinated me was his past experience with hard drugs, something I've had zero experience with. I stick to booze, weed, and the occasional psychedelic. I am not surprised, Jeff. That explains so much. So, yeah.
Hi, Jeff. We did really like your book.
Hey, it's creative. It's definitely creative. Hello, Berkey.
I'll give it that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that brings us to a close on our first episode. We have limped through our very first inaugural podcast episode. We still have people listening to us at the end, so it hasn't totally alienated our audience.
How many people do we have listening now?
I didn't want to say, but since you've asked me, we have one person listening to us. We have my brother listening to us.
Hi, John.
John says whoop whoop. So thanks, man. Thanks for sticking with us through this. We will of course publish this online, so many more people will listen to us. But those of you who were in the chat get to experience it firsthand in all its glory. So we will be back same time next week. Helen, do you want to give a brief kind of an overview of what the next book we're going to be going for is?
I would love to. So the next book that we're doing, we decided to go on a Christmas theme. It's called Sausagey Santa. So this is actually quite a pricey novel at £3.20, which I've only just seen. So I hope you guys are prepared to splash the cash. I'm just going to read you the blurb so you'll know what fun that we have to look forward to next week. Santa isn't the jolly old elf as portrayed in children's stories. He's a bit more grotesque than that. His eyes are pinto stuffed olives, his teeth are walnuts, and his body is made of sausages. One snowy Christmas Eve, while visiting the Fry family, Sausagey Santa is attacked by an evil force that is driven to destroy Christmas forever. It is the anti-Christmas spirit that loathes everything having to do with children and Jesus. His name is Frosty the Near-Nazi Snowman. After Frosty steals his magic bag of presents, Santa calls upon Matthew Fry and his wife to help get it back and save everyone for Christmas. It's the greatest sausage-spewing, elf-raping, I hadn't read that bit before, zombie-killing, transformer F-word, reindeer-exploding, snowman battling, adventure-rocking, bizarro Christmas story of all time. And that is by the great Carlton Mellick.
Carlton Mellick is the dude that drew the picture for the back of the book we just read.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I think Carlton Mellick and Jeff Burk are like bezies.
Well, Carlton Mellick has written quite a lot of the stories on our list, but I have a feeling that after we've read one or two, we may not get through all of them.
Yeah.
Just because of some kind of content that may be too explicit for our good Christian eyes. But he has been described generations long ago. So I'm excited to get stuck into Christmas Eve.
I just have to point this out. I don't know if you can see, but I think he's fallen. Oh no, he hasn't fallen asleep. I thought he was asleep on my shoulder.
Hello, baby. Aww,
Hello.
That's our cute little boy.
Cute.
Hey, we're back up to 2 listeners.
Woo!
Wow, who's the second?
If you are the second listener in the chat, please identify yourself.
Just this is the cover for us all to enjoy. So I think this is going to be
what that has to do with a sausage Santa.
So I think this is going to be another excellent contribution to the feminist movement. Is what I'd say.
Yeah, totes feminist.
Okay.
100%. We're back
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, that's the words I'll use. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
Indeed.
If anyone of the 2 people listening to this live,
We're back down to 1.
or anyone subsequently, thinks of a suitably flipping weird story that we could read to the podcast, please do send us an email, to which Paul has our email address.
Yep, we have an email address, which is whatthebookclubpodcast@gmail.com. It is up on our screen here, but yep, drop us a message.
Yeah, please. We have like 4 authors. We have like 20 books by about 4 authors. So anything you can think of that might fall under this subgenre of literary genius, please do let us know.
Yep. All right. I think that is it for the show today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to everyone listening to this. And we'll see you next time for the What the Book Club podcast. Bye, guys.
Thank you, John.
Bye.
Now, you might have noticed at the very end of last week's podcast, we read the blurb. I think we'd misread the blurb previously, and were a little bit concerned it sounded more than slightly questionable. Having now read it, we didn't think it fair to suggest you read it without giving you a really big heads up.
Yep.
So it's not quite the direction we intended the book club going. It is more than a little not suitable for work, not suitable for parents. Yeah, my mum has
Despite
given.
your mum's given a very solid opinion
Yeah,
of it.
my mum thought she was being like a cool young mum by reading it. We have decided to still review it purely because of the fact that we've all bought it now.
Well, yeah,
We've paid
£3
good money
£3.20
for it,
it is.
and we're cheap. So we are going to review it. But we just wanted to give you like a little public service announcement to say that it is way dodgy. It's various things could cause trigger warnings as well, so we're putting a trigger warning in there, especially when it comes to sexual violence, shall we say?
Really? I haven't read it yet. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And yeah, just it's not where we anticipated the book club going. Let's put it that way.
We tried our best to keep this thing wholesome, but we've massively failed.
Yeah. If you have slightly more wholesome weird books suggestions, please do send them. But we are going to do it. But we also are warning you. And yeah, it ain't quite what we anticipated. So there you are. We'll see you next week. And if you do choose to read it, good luck. I'm actually only 87% of the way through. But yeah, happy reading. I'm sorry.
See you all on Monday at 7.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.